What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another reaction. Today we have the Spanish-American War explained. I don't really know too much about this, so this is going to be interesting. It's from History Matters, so you already know it's going to be a good video. Let's jump straight into this one, man.
When William McKinley became the President of the United States in 1897, he presided over a country that was getting a little bit upset. What was it upset about? Well, it was the island to its south, Cuba, which at this point was a Spanish colony, and was also rebelling against said Spanish rule. This rebellion kicked off in 1895 and had some pretty unfortunate timing. I mean, rebellions are always pretty badly timed for those being rebelled against, but it coincided with the spectacular rise of American nationalism.
Literally.
When these ideas were combined with the stories about Spanish cruelties in Cuba, the American people got nationalism.
What did I say?
When these ideas were combined with the stories about Spanish cruelty.
No. That's gotta be bullshit.
The American people
That's
got
bullshit.
upset.
That's
As
bullshit.
such, the people and the press wanted to do something about it, but McKinley wasn't too keen. It wasn't until the Spanish ambassador's criticisms of McKinley were made public that he opted to send a warship, the USS Maine, to Cuba in order to protect American interests.
Right.
In February 1898, whilst in Havana Harbor, the Maine exploded, and irrespective of what the cause of the explosion was, the American people wanted blood. So bad was the public fervour and pressure from opponent politicians that McKinley knew war.
Wait, but why did it explode?
Havana Harbor, the Maine exploded, and irrespective of what the cause of the explosion was, the American people wanted blood.
Wait, so it just exploded off its own back, and then the Americans just like, it's war now.
So bad was the public fervour and pressure from opponent politicians that McKinley knew war couldn't be avoided. And so on April the 21st, 1898, America did just that and declared war on Spain under the slogan of "Remember the Maine, to hell with Spain." Now, Spain knew it wasn't going to defeat the United States in a war, but chose to fight it anyway. Why? Well, there were two main reasons. The first was that Cuba, along with the also revolting Philippines, were the last major vestiges of the once glorious Spanish Empire. And the second reason was that the dishonour of immediately surrendering to the US was too much for Spain to bear.
Yeah, but if you know you're going to lose, then why go through it, right? America is so much bigger, right? You know you're going to lose. Why would you go through with it?
Leaders preferred to go down fighting and lose with its honour intact. So how
Fair
did
enough.
said fighting go? It went amazingly well. For America. You see, America opted to fight the war on two fronts, one in the south in Cuba and one in the east, or to the west technically, in the Philippines. This was where Commodore George Dewey decisively defeated the Spanish fleet there at the Battle of Manila Bay. The US Army then landed and brought over the exiled Filipino revolutionary Emilio Aguinaldo, who promptly declared Filipino independence. To bring the Philippines back into the fold, the Spanish launched a major fleet, hoping to dislodge the Americans. It was shortly after this that the US captured Guam, and by captured I mean they turned up and gave off a warning shot. Now traditionally, when nations were at peace, they would fire off a salute to each other. The Spanish garrison there didn't have any ammunition, and so the governor, who didn't know he was at war, promptly apologised for not returning the salute.
Oh shit, wait, what?
Was captured with no fighting. As for the Caribbean theatre, the US started by seizing some place in southern Cuba called Guantanamo Bay. It later landed an expeditionary force here and pushed inland. The Spanish retreated but were extremely adept at defensive tactics, and so American progress was slow until the primary American force landed on July the 1st. This was the force that contained the famous Rough Riders Volunteer Army led by a certain Theodore Roosevelt. The Americans advanced inland and fought a small Spanish force at the infamous Battle of San Juan Hill. Here, the Spanish were able to inflict many more casualties on the Americans than they themselves suffered before retreating. And in case you're wondering, it was this battle that made Theodore Roosevelt a household name. July the 3rd saw the largest naval battle of the war, the Battle of Santiago de Cuba, during which the Americans obliterated the Spanish fleet there. It was after this that the aforementioned relief force that was being sent to the Philippines was promptly turned around because the Spanish coast now lay undefended.
I still don't get, like, what is the point of them going to war when they know they're going to lose, right? You're just going to lose your men and, like some people, they just want to go out fucking... Fair enough, they want to go out, try and make sense.
In late July, but Spanish forces there were incredibly
suppose leaders always want to do that.
The Americans had captured Santiago, the second largest city in Cuba, and in the Philippines the Spanish governor had surrendered as well. With their forces on the run and much of their navy sitting at the bottom of the ocean, the Spanish sued for peace before the Americans could march on Havana.
Yeah, so like in the end they got... It's so dumb, isn't it? Like in the end, they're asking for peace, right? They lost, surrendered. But they didn't want to do that at the start, even though they would go lose anyway. So they just wanted to fight just to fight. You know what I mean? Like,
a peace treaty was signed in which Spain lost Guam, the Philippines, and Puerto Rico to the United States. Cuba became a U.S.
Wait, what did that say? We get Cuba, Philippines, Guam, right? Everlasting glory. You get 20 mil. It's not bad. I love that.
the Philippines and Puerto Rico to the United States. Cuba became a US protectorate until 1902 when it gained its independence. In conclusion, the war had gone exceptionally well for America, which is why the Secretary of State John Hay called it a splendid little war. America's naval prowess were made clear to the world, and not a great deal of soldiers died in combat. Of course, lots of soldiers died from disease, but since yellow fever didn't wear a Spanish uniform, they didn't count. And for Spain, the soldiers who fought on Cuba and the Philippines had shown themselves as being some of the best in the world. But of course, the shock to Spanish society for losing the colony of Cuba was absolutely massive. The Spanish Empire was dead, the American Empire was born. I hope you enjoyed this episode.
Really interesting video. Enjoyed that one. I hope that you guys did enjoy it too. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.